Hi traders, welcome to another interview with one of our serious traders. Today with Charles from Murfreesboro in Tennessee, US. So, hi Charles, happy to have
Hey,
you
what's
here.
going on? Thank you.
Another
Thank you. I'm
trader
glad to be
here.
here.
Good. So, I saw your exceptional results, and I guess our viewers are already familiar with them from the name of the interview. But before we get to the trading itself, I would like to, know a bit more about you and your background. So, could you, introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about what you do, how did you get to trading, and so on?
Absolutely. So I'm Charles, out of Murfreesboro, like you said, and I've been trading for about 7 years now. I got into trading in a really odd way. I was on a popular blog site, a video blog site, not YouTube, but just something like it. And there was a person who made a video about, how to make money online, which normally you see those types of videos and you think scam, scam, scam. But something made me watch it that day, and he actually ended up going into binary options. That wasn't the initial thing that we were learning about, but that's what it turned into, was binary options. So that's my initial entry into just trading in general,
Okay, so you
was
actually
binary.
started with options, not with Forex, but options
Yep,
instead. Okay, well, that's
that's
interesting.
right. And so the funny thing about it was I was using MetaTrader 4 to determine when I wanted to, do a binary trade. And I accidentally took a trade, a Forex trade on MetaTrader 4, not knowing what I was doing. It was a demo account, of course, because I
Hmm.
was trading the binary on this website. But I accidentally took a trade and didn't think anything about it. 2 weeks later, I checked the I guess the dollar amount field or something, and I was up $8,000 in profit. I was like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on here? And that made me curious about Forex. And then I said buy binary options because I was doing good anyway. And then went more into the Forex side because it seemed more reasonable. It was easier to control your risk and everything like that. So I went towards the Forex side and started learning
Uh-huh. I see. Wow, that's a really unique story, almost like from a movie or something. So,
that.
when the forex, the $8,000 profit that you had on the demo account, when that caught your attention, uh, did you went out and search for any like trading education, or were you like learning all yourself, or what were the following
Yeah,
steps?
I've probably been in more groups, paid telegrams, paid mentors. I've done it all. I've literally probably 15 or more combined groups. I mean, I really tried to learn this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue I found was you really have to figure out what works for you, because a lot of the groups, every strategy works, in my opinion. It just depends on who's implementing that strategy, because everybody's brain is wired different. And so I was getting in groups where the learning style just didn't fit me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not blaming them saying, oh, you caused me not to learn this. It was just, it wasn't conducive to the way my brain operates. And so I had to keep going until I found someone finally who kind of resonated with my style of learning. I ended up not using their strategies entirely. I ended up actually coming up with all my own strategies to get to where I am now. However, had it not been for that person, then I probably would have quit though.
All right. So you went through all the Telegram groups, through all of
Oh
them,
my gosh,
all
all
of
of them.
the education. So how long did it take for you before you actually found out what really what suited you, and when you said, okay, this is sustainable, this is for me, I can keep using this, for the long term. How long did it take for you to find this sort of, I would even like to say holy grail, but let's not call it like that. But
Yeah.
let's say your, suitable style.
So I guess I have two answers to that. One answer is there was a week where I started off with $29 in my account on Monday. It was at 3,300 by Friday. That was the week where I realized the true potential in Forex. You don't have to have a ton of money to start if you can trade consistently and know what you're doing. So that was one thing where I said, I can't give this up. Um, I have to just keep going until I figure it out, till that light bulb goes off and I get it. That was one. And then two is when I branched off and started learning on my own. I took bits and pieces from what I knew and then just had to figure everything else out by myself. And the way I did it was instead of focusing on what works, because I mean, I knew what worked to a degree, but I focused more on my losses than I did my wins. And what I mean by that is every time that I lost, I obsessed over it and I broke that trade down and compared it to everything else that it looked like that. So if I won three trades on that same setup before and then I lost one, then I would pull up those three that I won and then the one I lost, and I would go piece by piece and figure out what's wrong, what moving average is out of place, what I would just go crazy until I figured it out. And then that's how I ended up developing each one of my strategies. Is once I found what it was, I would say, oh, okay, let me write that rule down and never break that rule again.
So I would like to get back to what you were saying about, analyzing your past trades.
Mhm,
Did you analyze only, let's say, the technical part of the trade? You were mentioning the moving averages, or
mhm.
was it related to your psychology as well? Because in our past interview, our last trader Xavier, he mentioned that he journals his emotions during the trade, before the trade, after the trade. Is that something that you're using as well, or is it like strictly from the technical point of view?
It should be strictly from a technical point of view, of course, but definitely emotions get involved, and that's just me being human and learning to trade like a robot. That's my goal is to start trading like a
Mm-hmm.
robot. If it meets my criteria, great, let's take the trade. If it doesn't, leave it alone. But of course, that's not how us humans work. We like to take chances sometimes, and we find that that gets us messed up when it comes to trading forex. Um, Psychologically, I'm still to this day struggling,
Mm-hmm.
and so I feel like I'm a poster child at this point for somebody who can struggle psychologically with saying that rule. Maybe let's say I have a strategy that has three rules. One of those rules isn't met, but it looks good though for the most part, and so I go ahead and take that trade. I shouldn't do that, but to this day, that's why I lose to this day. If my strategy is met, then I should win a very high percentage versus, I mean, I literally would say 90% of my losses are because I broke a strategy rule or just went on a hunch, something like that. But if I stick to the strategy and then I lose, I'm perfectly fine with it. If
Mm-hmm.
I break a rule and lose, I beat myself up.
Okay.
Because I just know I shouldn't do that.
Well, then, for yourself as a experienced trader, you said you've been trading for the past 7 years. Would you say that psychology is the biggest obstacle you still have to face to this day?
100%. I believe that a person can learn to trade probably within, let's say somebody finds someone who helps them learn in a way that is conducive to how their brain works. I say you can learn how to trade in a year,
Mm-hmm.
but then it's going to take you another 3 or 4 years to get that psychological piece down. So I just got to where I learned how to trade effectively, I'll say on year five. So maybe I've got another few months or a year of getting this psychological thing
Uh-huh.
down,
I
and
see.
then I'll be good to go. But yeah, the psychological aspect, 100% is what is the hardest part of trading, hands down.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, now slightly more back to trading. I would like to ask you, would you consider yourself as a fundamental trader, or are you using technical analysis or price action, order flow, or do you mix it up? So, we would like to more
So
on that.
my answer might shock you. Well, for one, I know I'm not a fundamental trader. I
Mm-hmm.
don't pay attention to any news outcomes. I don't care. I do want to know when the news is going to happen
Mm-hmm.
because I know that that can cause price spikes and that type of thing. But as far as the outcome of the news or watching the TV to see what's going on, I never have. I do envy those people because they sound extremely smart when they talk about fundamentals. So
Okay.
that's cool. But no, I would say I'm more, if I had to label myself, I would say technical. But honestly, all I do is look for certain patterns. I look at the market like it's a puzzle,
Hmm.
or I don't know if a puzzle is the right analogy, but just a certain pattern has to form around a moving average, and then that's just how I see it.
Okay, so moving average is absolutely crucial for you and your
Moving
strategy.
averages and oscillators, I cannot do without
Okay,
for my
so
style.
are there any other indicators that you also incorporate in your strategy?
Um, I might pull up a fib every here and there, a Fibonacci.
Hmm.
I mean, but it's pretty rare. And I have a form of Bollinger Bands. It's not the Bollinger Bands that come with MT4. It's a custom indicator that I got from one of those groups that I was in,
Hmm.
and I just still use it to this day. And but other than that, the bands, the moving averages, and the uh, oscillator that I use is pretty much that's it.
Okay, perfect. Well, I think now would be a good time if you could, show us how you use it. So, could we go ahead and go to the trading platform?
For sure.
All right, good. All right, and here we are in your MT4 trading platform. I can see that this time we're looking at the Euro Canadian dollar. So you're
Mhm.
mentioning that this was the best trade on the particular FTMO account we were talking about, right?
Right. This was the first time I ever I took a five-figure trade, made five figures in profit. First time ever in
In one
life,
trade.
one trade.
Nice. All right. Well, let's see how it was done. So, if you don't mind, could you like give us a little breakthrough on what actually led you to executing this trade? What points made you to actually make the entry?
Yeah, yeah, not a problem. So, like I said earlier, I see the market in different patterns that form around moving averages. And so, this particular pattern I call angel dust. And I call it angel dust because the main thing that I look for is the acronym for it is PCP, and angel dust is the street name for the drug PCP. So it was the first thing that popped in my head when I thought of the PCP thing. But PCP stands for peak center pass. And peak center pass is basically my way of looking for either a M or a W formation in the market. As we know, that the M's and W's are not always pretty. And so I used to get caught up in looking for this obvious M pattern and
Hmm.
this obvious W, and it just
Yes,
wasn't working out.
you were just
And
looking for the
so
perfect pattern that you could spot like right from the first glance.
exactly, and that just doesn't happen like that, very often. So when I started looking at the market or started looking at it as peak center pass, that really changed the game for me, and I was able to start catching a lot of trades. And so let's get into I'll get into what all the rules of angel dust. So rule number one for angel dust is you always want to trade in the direction of whatever side of the 144 EMA that you're on. Just throwing it out there, my EMAs are all exponential and they're all set to median price. I know a lot of people set this to close. I have mine set to median price, so I'm just throwing that out there in case anybody's wondering. But so since we're on the top side of the 144, the purple line down here, then I want to only look for buys. Rule number two is on the H1 time frame. All of my strategies start off on the H1 time frame. That's where I spot every setup. Um, but on the H1 time frame, the candles have to start riding along the 10 EMA.
Hmm.
And as they're riding along the 10 EMA, I want the Ehlers Fisher or the oscillator down here, the green line. Don't worry about the dotted line in this situation, just the green line. It has to be below the 50 level as it's riding along the 10 EMA. And
So that's the
so
second point.
that's a checkpoint. That's my rule number two. And once I see that, then I know to start looking for a PCP or peak center pass. So peak center pass in this situation is going to look like it's going to be somewhat of a W formation. So the top of my W is my peak. That's what I see as this area right here. This is kind of my peak. Then the W comes down, it comes up into a center point, and I always mark my center point. So the top of this body, this green candle here, that's the top of my center of the W. So I draw a line there. The next thing I need is a pass candle because it's peak center pass.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say pass candle, what I mean is I need for H1 to close past the line that I just drew for my center point. And we got that on this green candle right here. I don't know if I need to maybe zoom in a little bit, but this green candle here closed past the center point that I drew here. So now peak center pass is confirmed. Angel dust is confirmed. So the next thing that I do is simply look for an entry. The way that I look for entries is once it's confirmed on H1, all I do is I go down to the 15-minute chart. Let's see, we were on February 3rd. Here we go. So I go down to the 15-minute chart, and all I do is I wait on price to come back down and grab the 50 EMA, which is my gold line.
Mm-hmm.
I wait on it to grab the 50 EMA. It has to do it at a certain time. Like this right here, I wouldn't have taken because this just wasn't in the prime New York session hours. Uh, there's only certain times a day that I'll trade. So for my time, I'm Central Standard Time here in Tennessee. So as far as a New York session trade, I'm not going to take anything really that happens before maybe 6:30 in the morning or something like that. And this was probably about 5 o'clock in the morning right here. But it came back and grabbed the gold line again right here. And I usually like to let it pass the gold line just a little bit, which it did. And so I took, I think, 3 entries right here for a total of 35 lots. And then it shot up. And in 2 candles, actually, I got out right around here.
Oh,
And then
okay.
that was $20,000 in 30 minutes, just like that.
Wow.
And
Could have been
granted,
a much more,
yeah,
as I can see.
yeah, as you can see. And I was really upset with myself about that. But at the same time, this was the first time I had ever seen 5 figures in my profit area. And then it happened so fast. And
Yeah.
then it was not 10, it was 20,000. I had to take it. I'm like, I can't mess this up. I gotta take it. So but yeah, hindsight is 2020. I wish for every yeah, I wish I would have held it. That would have been a good probably $80,000 if I could have held it up here.
Yeah, on the other hand, I think you really can't be mad after, scoring $20,000 in half an hour.
I'm not mad at it at all.
Now, I'm not sure about this particular trade. I assume, was there a stop loss put as well when you
Yes,
enter the
yeah.
position?
My stop loss was probably about, so I normally, just a rule of thumb for myself, I don't like taking using a stop loss more than 20 pips.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if I have to use a stop loss more than 20 pips for my style, I don't want to make anybody think that I'm talking bad about them. For my style, if I have to use more than 20 pips, unless it's gold, because gold is a different beast. So gold, I might give it 50 pips. But anything else, 20 pips, more than 20 pips, it's not a good entry. I didn't get the entry good enough. So normally, what I found, and pretty much all of my strategies, I go down to the 15-minute chart and I wait on price to come back and just past the 50 moving average. I have found that if I wait on the 50 moving average to get touched on M15, then it really helps me avoid a ton of drawdown. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of times I will only have, 2, 3 pips of drawdown by taking trades this way. This entry wasn't, I was maybe down about, yeah, 11 pips on this one at the most. So again, it was a good trade, but I put my stop loss pretty much below this structure, the support level right here.
Okay. So what is the typical risk reward ratio that you're aiming for usually with your trades?
So that's oops, oh crap. Sorry about that.
No worries.
That risk to reward for me is an area where I differ from a lot of people and where a lot of people would probably talk bad about me. I don't look at percentages. I don't, the only thing that I look for is I ask myself, I look at my account balance
Mm-hmm.
and I ask myself, okay, how much am I willing to lose just in general? I'm not necessarily looking at it as a percentage. Let's just say, for example, I have $100 in my account. Now, I'm a very high risk trader. I will put that out there. Yes, I'm a high risk trader. So let's say I had $100 in my account. I'm willing to lose $8 on this one trade. So if I know that I'm willing to lose $8 on this one trade, then the way that I come up with my lot size is by predetermining where my stop loss is going to be. If I only need a 10 pip stop loss on that trade, then I'll put in a 0.08 lot for that trade. If I need a 20 pip stop loss for that trade, then I'll do a 0.04 lot
Mm-hmm.
for that trade, because both of those would end up making me lose $8 at the end of the day if
Yeah.
I lose that trade. That's how I think about it. And then as far as the reward side of things, so for this trade, for example, even though I didn't let it hit my take profit, the where as far as where I had it, the trade happened right around this area, and I had this zone drawn out right here to say price is going to come up to here at least, because we've got a nice area over here where the market peaked. And also, even if I keep drawing that zone out further, we see that it stopped right here, broke through it, tapped it here. And so I figured we would come back up and tap it again, on this side, which it did, as we see. I just didn't wait that long, for that to happen. But that's how I determine my take profit points, though, is I go to the H4 time frame and I just look for where's the next major zone.
Okay. Wow, that's interesting because what we see, usually is that people are determining their stop losses and their take profits by percentage points, right? A lot of people, most people actually, I think, are
Hmm.
willing to risk 1-2% of the account per trade, and not you. You're actually looking at each trade completely individually, and you're
Yes,
not
sir.
considering the account size or the percentages at all.
Exactly. Well, the account size, yes, I'm considering that because, like I said, I immediately ask myself before I even take the trade, how much am I willing to lose on this trade? And then I go from there
Mm-hmm.
as far as determining my lot size. And like I said, I make my lot size depending on where's my stop loss going to have to be.
Okay. Okay.
And
Uh,
so on this trade, I mean, as you can see on this one, where I drew that zone and how I got out right here, I would have hit this zone within the next hour because there was one, two, three, four 15-minute candles, and it wicked right here. That zone was hitting another hour if I just would have held it.
All right. Another question I wanted to ask you. So this particular trade was based on the peak center peak pattern. Uh,
Mhm.
do you have any like favorite patterns, or let's say what was the most common pattern in your past with FTMO that helped you to gain most profits?
This one, Angel Dust, and what I have is called an Omega trade. I actually don't mind showing. So here's what I do. I have folders for each one of my strategies, and I do
Mm-hmm.
screenshots of those strategies. So if I go to the Angel Dust folder, for example, here are a ton of examples where Angel Dust has showed up, and I can show you the same pattern happening where it's peak. Here's my center point. It passed here. I go to the next slide and I say this would have been my entry right above where it touched the 50 EMA on the 15-minute chart. And then it goes. I can go to the next chart. Um, it happens here. It's a bunch of different ways where it just keeps happening. And I keep telling myself, hey, here's peak. Here's my center point. Here's where it passed. I go to the 15-minute time frame. It came down and hit the gold line right here. It goes up. Boom. That's how I do all of my strategies to prove to myself that it works. So that's my angel dust folder, for example. My no trade folder here is losers.
Mm-hmm.
These are the losing trades where I say let me compare these to all the winning ones. And then that's how I tweak my rules and make the trade more effective to make the win percentage more, a higher win percentage. My Omega strategy is definitely second place. It might be taking first place soon because I've been seeing this more than Angel Dust lately. And again, I've got a ton of examples of just showing myself that pattern works, and those screenshots are also things that I look back on when if I can't quite remember the rules, then I can look back on those screenshots to kind of remind myself, exactly what it's supposed to look like in different scenarios.
Mm-hmm. All right. I'm just thinking, since you're mentioning that Omega might be taking the first place soon, Would you be okay if you could like show us a couple of examples where the omega pattern worked for you?
Sure. Let's see. I think yeah, AJ was the last omega pattern that I took. So actually, here's two of them right here. I don't know if you can see this box too good, but that's one and that's one. I'll just break down this one right here since it's kind of right here in my face. So the omega strategy, what I do on this one is once I see, and again, I always start off on H1
Mm-hmm.
and I wait on price to start hovering between the 144 and the 50 moving average on the H1 time frame. So you see how it's, and it doesn't have to be completely, but between it, just the bulk of the pattern is just kind of chopping between those two moving averages, the 144 and the 50. At the same time, it has to be either overbought or oversold. So in this situation, we see right here, it's oversold because it's below the 10 level on my oscillator down here. At the same time, it's also divergent. I don't necessarily need it to be divergent, but it does help.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I see that, that's rule number one to tell me, hey, I need to start looking for an omega setup. Rule number two is very similar to peak center pass. Actually, you can say it's the same thing really with peak center pass. So here would be my peak. This is my center point. So I'm going to draw a line here, and then I'm going to wait on price to. Actually, I'm sorry. So my center point can be adjusted. I'm glad I'm showing this one now. The way that I locate my center points is I look for kind of a V shape, or in this case, it would be an upside down V. So you see how the H1 candles kind of make an upside down V right there. To
Mm-hmm.
me, that's kind of a point. So this is the first time I started looking for a center point. Well, then price started coming down, and let's see, it made another kind of a V right here. And so once this V got made, I adjusted my center point and said, okay, now here's the new center point at the top of that green candle. Now, when I was looking for perfect M's and W's back in the day, I never would have
Yeah, you couldn't
gotten
really
this.
see it in there.
This is
Okay.
why I had to change it to peak center pass. And my center point is really the key to that is knowing when to adjust that center point. And this is an example of when I would adjust it, not from here, but another V was made, an upside down V. And so now this is my new center point, and then this becomes my pass candle right here. And so once this candle broke it, like I told you, all my strategies, once I see it happen and confirm on the H1 chart, all I do is go down to the 15-minute time frame.
Mm-hmm.
So I go down to 15 minutes. We were on March 9th. So I go down to the 15-minute time frame, and then I just waited on price to come down and grab my 50 EMA, and we take off.
All right. So again, 1 hour time frame to determine the pattern, and then a 15-minute time frame to make the entry. Uh,
Absolutely.
all right. Now,
And so
for how long do you usually hold the trade? So I think from what I've seen in your econometrics, it's usually several minutes, right?
so I think my account metrics, and I know we'll get into that at some point, but my account metrics, I would say that they're misleading because a lot of that, I mean, the metrics are accurate based on what I've been doing, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But when I say that they're misleading is because a lot of my trades are me goofing up and saying a lot of times I might take a trade that didn't fully meet my criteria because I was just being, just going off a hunch that day or just being undisciplined, basically. And then sometimes I'll just catch myself a few minutes into the trade and just be like, you know what, let me just get out of this because I shouldn't have gotten that in the first place. So I have a lot of those types of traits and that factor into that how long the FTMO platform shows that I hold a trade. But as far as trades that I actually take that I'm supposed to take and I hold those trades out, I would probably say 6 hours, 6 to 8 hours.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, that's really different than from what I've seen in the econometrics. Now, you said that you're trading mostly U.S. session, right? New York time.
Mostly New York session. New York session is the most. London session would be second, and Asian session would be third. as far as what I trade the most frequently.
Mm-hmm. All right. Have you like ever tried like, for example, Asian session, or is the for you the liquidity is just not there and you're not able to find these patterns that you're looking for?
It's more so just that the pattern is mostly confirmed during the New York session.
Mm-hmm. I see. All right. Well, now I think could we switch to the econometrics? And
Sure.
there are a few values that I'd like to talk about. Now, first off, we see the balance curve, right? So let's start with that. So obviously you had a great start, and then after around 30 trades, we can see that
Mhm.
you started, I would say stagnating a little. The
Right.
the the rise was not as steep as before. So was there like some point where I don't know, something went wrong or anything that do you have any reason for this? Why you think this balance curve looks in a way it is.
Yeah, that's that psychology issue that I have coming into play and me taking a ton of trades that I had no business taking. Um, I made it. So here's something that I do very often. I'll see something that fits my criteria perfectly, but I don't, it looks like it may only go 40 pips. And then I'll see something else that doesn't quite fit my criteria, but it looks like if it does go that direction, it's going to go 100 pips. So I go after the one that's going 100 pips
Mm-hmm.
because I want all the money. And then I'll mess around and lose the trade. That's the type of psychological issue that I have is sticking to the plan 100%. So that's what I'm working on. That's these dips that you see. This is just me having a ton of psychological warfare.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, how do you battle these issues with your psychology, with your discipline?
It's just reminding myself that when I stick to the plan, really good things happen. And despite knowing that, and despite really every morning when or I sit down at the computer, I try to tell myself that. But again, it's literally a battle, and I'm very willing to be transparent about that because I think that's what a majority of traders go through.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm here to tell you that there is a way to still win, even through those battles. Now, yes, you definitely want to get to the place, and I personally definitely want to get to the place where I'm only trading the perfect setups. And that's what I'm striving to do now. But I have a long way to go.
All right. So, from your point of view as a trader, we all know that trading is really just you and the computer and the markets. So,
Mhm.
being able to get comfortable with yourself and really, do you think is it important for you to know yourself as a trader? Do you think you actually got to know yourself better when you were trading? Like you noticed some of your characteristics that probably didn't help you with trading. Do you know what I mean? Like, did
Yes,
you
I
meet
tell
yourself better
people,
as a trader?
yeah, I tell people all the time, trading will reveal all your character flaws, all of them, all your greed, all your impatience, your fear, all of that. Like you find out just how undisciplined of a person that you really are. You have very little self-control. You come to find out when you start trading these markets. And so absolutely it helped me realize a lot of character flaws that I needed to work on in the self-control department. And like I said, to this day that I'm still struggling with, but at least I'm aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah.
Okay. Now, if you scroll down a little to the daily results a bit more, yes, there we are. What I noticed is on the 9th of February, you had the most profitable day. You scored over $15,000. And right
Mhm.
the following day, you had
Right.
the over $9,000 loss. So do you
Mhm.
think the loss was somehow connected to the fact that on the previous day, you scored a lot of money and in a way it affected your psychology and therefore you probably might have not been disciplined and therefore got, over a $9,000 loss?
100%. That was probably me saying, hey, I just made all this money so I can be lenient on my rules tomorrow or, or this day. I'm going to be lenient on my rules and just go for gold on something because I made so much yesterday. And that's a terrible way to think.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I wanted to ask, as I'm looking at this trade and as what you're talking about, as a trader, you really have to get to know yourself, and you really have to reveal your characteristic flaws.
Mhm.
Do you think the more you get to know yourself, the more experience you have with yourself, the better you are as a trader? Because you've been trading for 7 years. We can see your results. You've passed all the FTMO challenges you bought. You have these amazing results. So 5, 6 years ago, how would you compare yourself, now versus yourself 5, 6 years ago from the psychologist point of view?
From the psychology point of view, years ago, my issue was revenge trading. So it would be more so like now, I at least try to take trades that kind of fit my criteria, even though when I mess up. Again, I'm only supposed to take ones that fully meet my criteria, but when I mess up, is they at least kind of met my criteria. 5 years ago, oh, I was just taking whatever. Once I took a loss, I was just doing something just to see if I could make the money back. I wasn't worried about criteria after that. I was just revenge trading. Let me just do something to see if I can make this $50 back, the $75 back, whatever the case may be.
Hmm.
So that would be the difference is that even though it's definitely not a great uh it's not as much as an improvement after that many years as it should be psychologically. At least it's something. And as long as I'm moving forward, then that's all I can ask is that I'm making some type of progress.
Hmm. Do you believe that, let's say, in 2, 3, 4, 5 years on from now, you're gonna be a better trader because you're gonna know yourself more, you're gonna know yourself better, and you're gonna know more about your characteristic flaws?
Hey man, I'm gaming for 5 months from now. Let's forget 5 years. Let's go 5 months.
Okay.
Part of the reason I was so excited to do this interview was to really be transparent about all of this. And of course, a lot of times you just need to talk to people and talk about things out loud to get it off your chest. And it's therapeutic and it can help you, you know, kind of heal yourself in that aspect. So I really feel like after this, I'm really gonna feel obligated to stick to what I'm telling everybody right now. 'Cause I know that these videos get a good amount of views. I want to be able to to be able to come back soon and say, now look at my account balance. Yeah, I may have made 20K today, but I didn't lose 15K tomorrow. Um, I'm aiming to do that ASAP. But yes, but to answer your question directly though, in 5 years, I very sincerely hope that I am only taking the trades that fully meet my criteria every single day.
Okay, so your ultimate goal as of now is to become disciplined in a way you're gonna be able to only follow your strategy strictly, and you're not gonna be, doing, any trades that really do not stick within your plan.
Right, because it's hindering me from, I still work a job. Yes, I've made over 100,000, in the last maybe 7 weeks now or something since I started the 200, my first 200K account, but it should have been over 200 had I been disciplined. So like it's great, but it could have been much greater. And so I want to stop hindering myself. I still work a corporate job. I'm trying to quit that job. I'm trying to let my wife, get to where she can feel comfortable quitting her job. And I have a dollar amount in my brain that I want to hit to have that amount of money in the bank. And then I'm going to go full time trading. And when I do things like being lenient on my rules, then all I'm doing is prolonging when I'm going to be able to quit my job and have my wife quit her job. So
Okay,
yeah, I got to get it together.
nice. So that is the ultimate goal that you chase, right? I guess to really, have the vision of yourself being comfortable from the financial point of view, your wife not having to work. Is that something that motivates you to keep on going?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so here in the final part, we have the strategy behind us. Now, I would like to, talk a bit more about your past because, as I was mentioning previously, You bought three FTMO challenges. You managed to pass them all. Now you are trading, if I'm not mistaken, on a $400,000 FTMO account, right? You merged two accounts together. I
Hmm.
saw that you were doing quite well on that account, so good for you. Uh, but of course, this is a result of years and years of experience, some possible losses too. And
Hmm.
so again, I would like to get to the part uh, through what did you have to go, to really get here and become an FTMO trader with max capital allocation. Were there like any
Um,
specific points that you remember, now that really like, pushed you forward as a trader?
uh, I guess I sound like a broken record, but it just kind of comes to, okay, let me just say it this way. When I stick to the plan, my trades are really profitable.
Uh-huh.
So I might be 50%, have 50% win rate, but the ones that I win, like they're going to be profitable because those are the ones I actually stuck to the plan on. And my strategies are, most of them are going to really spit out at least 50 pips, if not 100
Mm-hmm.
on most of my strategies. Just the way, because I look at it on the H1 time frame for it to set up. So when it starts going, like it goes a long way. And so I think that's what has really gotten me here is to stop looking for a few pips here and there and start looking for, 100.
Mm-hmm. Now, how long did it take for you to become really profitable as a trader? How many
About six
years or
months
months?
ago.
Okay.
So 6.5 years.
All right. Well, what made you not to stop trading? Because a lot of traders, of course, you know, we all know that trading is a sexy thing, because
Mhm.
people promote it on social media. You can make thousands of
Yep.
dollars just by a few clicks. So of course, everybody
Yeah.
is keen to try it. But most of people, of course, when they see how tough of a business trading is, they
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 quit.
stop, they quit. So what made you not quit?
Um, I just don't want to work for people for the rest of my life. I just don't. And so, okay, you can imagine how many people say that, right? But how many people actually bust their butt to make that happen?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to do everything in my power to not have to work for somebody for the rest of my life. I have one life to live. I want to live it a certain way. I'm going after it. I don't want to be, you know, 75 years old saying, what if I never would have quit? What if I just would have kept going for another year? Maybe that light bulb would have went off. And it did. But what if I would have quit on year 6? Wouldn't be here right now.
Mm-hmm. All
And so
right.
I couldn't let that happen. I had to know if I keep going, will I reach that potential? So, and I'm still reaching. I'm not where I want to be yet by any means. But yeah, that's it. I just can't work for people for the rest of my life.
Well, it seems this approach is starting to pay off. So where would you like to be? Where, at which point in life would you really be comfortable?
I need, well, my initial goal or my current goal is to save up 3 years worth of my wife and I's combined income.
Mm-hmm.
Once I get to that point, then I'll feel comfortable trading full time. And of course, my wife, if she chooses to keep working at that point, then that's her decision. But for me, that's what I need to say. Okay, I'm gonna put corporate America aside and just trade full time. It's 3 years of both my wife and I's combined income that I've made from trading,
Mm-hmm. All
and it's
right.
sitting in the bank.
So your plan is because I think you mentioned that you're still working a corporate job.
Hmm.
So your plan is to keep this job and trade simultaneously until you
Hmm.
really feel comfortable quitting the job. Is
Yes.
so I assume you would like to become a full-time trader at a certain point.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I've got a timeline. Oh, if I keep at the current rate that I'm going now, then we may be looking at 5 months or so, and I'm out of
Okay.
there. So that would be awesome.
All right. So, would your plan be to like just stick with FTMO or to use your profits on your live private account? Do you have any plans on
Yeah.
that?
Uh, as long as you're here, I'm here with you. As long as you'll have me, why would I let you go? Don't leave me, FTMO. But it's yeah, I mean, there's no reason not to want to stick with it. I do have a personal account that I trade. Actually, I have two personal accounts that I trade as well. But having this one on, in addition to those, is not hurting anything. So I have no reason to say, well, I'm just going to trade with FTMO for another year or two, and then I'll just do my own thing. I can do my own thing anyway.
Hmm. Okay.
So I will be here as long as you are. You
Uh,
know.
this is a question I asked in the previous interview, and I would like to ask it here as well. Now, with FTMO, of course, we do have the loss limits, right? The max daily loss and the max loss. Uh, is that something you sort of incorporate on your own life accounts too? Some sort of a, limit. What can I lose in a day, or what can I lose overall?
Yeah, I do the same thing. Like I said, I have per trade. What's my so I have it. Yes, I have my own daily loss limit. Yeah, it's still done the same way. Like, so let's say I wake up in the morning and I see one setup, then I'm going to use my whole daily loss on that trade. If I see three setups, I'm going to split it up, and I'll do 33% for
Mm-hmm.
each, potential setup. Now, I may only end up taking two of those setups, so I only use 66% of that risk that day. But I saw three, so I'm going to keep 33% in mind for each, trade. So yeah, I've got my own limits.
All right. Good. So now that we are trading with $400,000, you have reached the maximum capital allocation. The logical step would be to go for the scaling plan.
Scale up. Let's
So,
scale up.
yeah, is that something that you would be aiming for? I assume you would, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Whatever I got to do, I'm trying to do it.
All right. Now, uh, before we end, would you like to like put out any advice to people that are just starting with FTMO, or people who just got their FTMO account, or just people who start trading in general? Because you have this long way behind you. You've been through a lot. So
Mhm.
do you have any advice that you would like to hear when you were starting trading?
Um, Focus on your losses. Really dissect your losses. Learn how to win first, yes, but once you know how to win, focus on your losses and really pick them apart and figure out exactly why you lost. Write it down and do your best not to do that again. So for FTMO traders specifically, I would say read the rules. I see so many people when I was about to do the challenge and I was doing my own research on FTMO, trying to make sure everything was legit and everything like that. A lot of the complaints that were in the forums, I was like, that was if you would have read the website, you would have known you couldn't do that. Or if you would have went to their YouTube page where they verbally tell you in a video what their rules and restrictions are in detail, then you would have known. And it's like so many people just don't do their research and read. They just want to jump on something and trade and then want to blame somebody else when they breach the rule. And it's just like take some self accountability and stop trying to blame FTMO for you failing the challenge. Like they didn't purposely come back and hit your stop loss. The chart was the same on this broker and that broker. You just can't, you just messed up. Deal with it. Take some self accountability. As you can see, that really bothers me when people don't, when I just hate when somebody tries to blame somebody else for their mistake.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just something that I noticed in a lot of the forums. People, oh, I failed my challenge because of such and such. And it's like, well, that was clearly in the rules, buddy. You know, so
Yeah,
yeah.
I see what you mean. We know it quite well. Well, before we end, uh, we've talked a lot of stuff. Are there any words that you would like to just put out to, any traders out there?
Um, just get you a find a why, find the reason that you're doing what you're doing, and understand that, we all hear the statistic that, 90 some odd percent of traders fail. And I firmly believe that the only reason that they fail is because they give up. Like I told you earlier, I that's the only difference between me and all the folks that gave up on year one or year two. I just kept going and made it to year seven when my light bulb kind of went off. That's the only difference. I get that. So you just have to stay at it.
And that's FTMO.